Oh, that's very interesting, sort of speaking for myself. And we're family members, FMs, and family friends. For excellent, fun, and good, sort of speaking for myself, perhaps. And for example, very important resources, monies, currencies, and supplies of resources. Very important parodies and satires, and very important resources, compensation, settlements, money, supplies, materials, and resources. Age 18 year to year. Absolutely. I've never had a lawsuit. No, about 0%. Isn't that sort of interesting? Never had a lawsuit, about 0%, very little if any, so-called against me, or I've never sued separately, never sued anyone. No, never sued, and never even wanted to. An organization group, military, government, section, species, business, organization group, military, government, section, species, never had a settlement or a lawsuit, never wanted to, never really wanted to. There'd be no need to, sort of speaking for myself. And very important resources, monies, currency, supplies, materials, different so-called feng shui workers and energy workers, research workers, intelligentsia, very excellent, fine and good, about 100% of the time, nearly all the time, much of the time, excellent, fine and good, sort of speaking for myself perhaps. And very important resources, monies, currency, supplies, materials, and many fellow so-called feng shui, well, I don't know about fellow, but many, I don't know about fellow, but many very important feng shui workers, energy workers, research workers, intelligentsia, and very important captains of industry, business, finance, very important captains of industry, businesses, finance, and very important cultured family members, FMs, and family friends. There are variety shows and parodies and satires and acting stages and acting studios, different computer animation, computer-generated images, CGIs, and special effects, SC, and very important resources, monies, currencies, compensation, settlements, monies, resources, for example, age year to year. Very important child support payments and family support payments and child support payments and very important resources, monies, currencies, supplies, words, sayings, and phrases, red, white, and blue, and green, and orange, and yellow, and red, and white, and blue, and purple, and yellow, and orange, and red, white, and blue, and green, and orange, and purple, and red, white, and blue, and purple, and orange, and green, and red, white, and blue, for example. Very important words, sayings, and phrases, sort of maybe randomly about that, and not about that, and maybe about that, maybe out that time, not that time, and approximately, then not approximately, then. Very important resources, monies, currencies, supplies, resources, and for example, I've happened never to have to be relocated or evacuated, about 0%, about none. And I've never had a broken bone. Or I've never probably lost any teeth, about 0%. And I've never had to be evacuated or relocated. For example, make supposition, generalization, inference, and synonymous, and synonymous, different definition, different words, things, and phrases are very appropriate and safe and sound. And I've never, about 0%, have had for example, a broken bone, or lost my teeth, about 0%. And very important resources, monies, and supplies of resources. I've never gone bankrupt. I've happened not to gone bankrupt or liquidated, or sued anyone, or have ever been sued, about 0%. And there be no real cause for that. And very important resources, compensation, settlements, and resources, and different speculation, conjecture, and different science fiction, adventure books, and literature, and very important resources, monies, currencies, parodies, and satires, and acting stages, acting studios, and very important resources, monies, currencies, and a lot of interesting news articles and books that are writing jokes about, for example, play fight and roughhousing, and strong strength, loyalty, tough, terse, strong strength, loyalty, powerful, strong strength, loyalty, and intelligent, smartly, cunning, clever, intelligent, strong strength, loyalty. And for example, very important words, sayings, and phrases, and resources, monies, currencies, supplies, materials, and strong strength, loyalty, tough, powerful, and terse, strong strength, loyalty, intelligent, smartly, cunning, clever, intelligent, reserves, very appropriate and safe and sound. Sure, speaking myself, and very important resource, monies, currencies, and hardworking, and very appropriate and safe and sound, sort of speak of self, and savings, very appropriate and safe and sound, sort of speak of self, and hardworking, savings, reserve, strong faith, loyalty, fidelity, fiduciary, strong faith, loyalty, and we're family members, FMs, and family friends, very appropriate and safe and sound, sort of speak of myself about 100% of the time, we're family members, friends, and very excellent, fine, and good, about 100% of the time, absolutely. Very important resources, monies, currencies, supplies, materials, and resources, and a variety shows maybe that kind of audience, or that sort of audience, or that kind of audience, for example. And very important resources, monies, currencies, supplies, materials, and medicine, supplies, materials, and resources. Different news articles, books that are writing jokes, for example, about feng shui workers or high energy workers, and heavy laden energy workers, research workers, intelligentsias, for example, and very important resources, monies, currencies, supplies, materials, and resources, age year to year, we're family members, FMs, and family and friends, for example. Very important resources, monies, currencies, supplies, materials, and different reading that aloud and saying that aloud, different books and literature writings and jokes from around the world, around the universes, and very important resources, monies, parodies, and satires, and different so-called roughhousing, or play fight, and very appropriate and safe and sound, and jokes and bluff and tease and satire, and jokes and bluff and tease and joking, maybe reading aloud or saying aloud. Very important news articles, books that are writing jokes about, for example, mechanical robotic dogs and cats and birds and bees and so-called insects and so-called dogs and so-called cats and so-called dogs and so-called cats, about mechanical robotic, or a lot of entertainment resources, maybe that kind of audience, that sort of audience, and different resources, monies, currencies, different so-called fictional or fake or fictional. For example, news articles about dust or dirt or grime, dust or dirt or grime or mildew, or resources and acting studios, acting props, and acting studios, acting props, and different worldviews and points of views, different worldviews and points of views. For example, maybe very appropriate and safe and sound, maybe reading aloud or saying aloud, and very excellent, fine and good. Different variety programs VP and variety shows VS, and very important resources, monies, currencies, extrapolation, generalization, inference. For example, well, I've never been to jail, about 0% been to jail, or sent to jail, or booked, or sentenced to jail or prison. For what it's worth, reading aloud, and never prolongation been arrested or convicted of any crime, about 0%. Convicted of any crime, or been sent to prison or jail, prolongation, extrapolation, generalization, and for instance, so-called, very obvious, very apparent, absolutely. Very important resources and supplies, our survival. Very important resources, monies, currency, supplies, and resources, reading that aloud. Would we read much of that? We would not. Just kidding. Many of us would not, probably. It'd be very valuable and lucrative and valuable. We'd probably be geared up for our survival. Very important energies, resources, monies, websites, blogs, time management, resource management. It'd be very interesting. Oh, sure, I guess so. We already know that as well. They'd have to sort of prove themselves to us. No. Very obvious. No, we'd know nearly everything. Just reading that aloud and paraphrase, quotation, summarize much of everything, and we'd pay much attention to that. We would not, actually. We would not. It'd be very interesting, entertaining. I guess so. We'd read it if we had to, and we'd be geared up for our survival, continue to live. And energies and resources, money, supplies, resources, and we would happen to know that, and we think that is very important. No, and it would be very, very important, yes, but we already would happen to know that. Especially now in that book that are movie script, reading different excerpts or parts of that book that are movie scripts, we already know that for what it's worth, and we'd be geared up for our survival. And very important resources, monies, websites, blogs, supplies, resources, and we're family members, FMs, and family members, FMs, and family and friends, and very excellent, fine and good, about 100% of the time, and very appropriate and safe and sound about 100% of the time. Very appropriate and safe and sound about 100% of the time, excellent, fine and good, much of the time, if not about all the time, excellent, fine and good, about 100% of the time. And we're family members, FMs, and family and friends, and for instance, so-called, different reading that aloud and saying aloud, and very important resources, monies, currencies, resources, and we're family members, FMs, and family and friends, for example.